The year was 480 BCE. The smoke of Thermopylae still haunted the mountains of Greece. 300 Spartans, alongside their allies, had stood against the largest army the world had ever seen, and perished. But their defiance ignited something far greater than fear. From the ashes of defeat, an oath was sworn. 10,000 Spartans would rise, not for glory, but for vengeance, to reclaim honor, to burn the invaders who defiled their homeland, and to make the name of Sparta echo like thunder through the ages. The bodies of Leonidas and his men lay unburied, mocked by Persian soldiers. Xerxes believed he had crushed Greek resistance, yet Sparta's pride could not be buried under Persian gold or fire. The survivors who fled brought tales of courage and horror, arrows that darkened the sun, the last cries of warriors holding a narrow pass until the end. These stories spread like wildfire through the Peloponnesus, igniting rage in every Spartan heart. In the Spartan Agra, mothers did not weep, they sharpened blades. Widows placed their sons' hands on shields, whispering, "Return with it or on it." A council of elders convened under the gaze of the twin kings, for vengeance was no longer a choice, it was destiny. They would avenge Leonidas not through mere defense, but by striking fear into Persia's heart. Word spread through Greece that Sparta was raising 10,000 hoplites, an army forged from vengeance. Farmers left their plows, boys became men, and veterans donned bronze once more. The message was clear: the blood of Thermopylae would be repaid tenfold. In the sanctuary of Artemis Orthia, torches burned through the night as 10,000 Spartans gathered in silence. The air smelled of sweat, smoke, and iron. A single voice broke the stillness. The ephor declared that Sparta would not rest until Xerxes' armies were drowned in their own arrogance. The soldiers raised their spears, chanting Leonidas' name until the temple walls trembled. Each man swore before the gods of war and ancestors past that they would march beyond fear. Their vengeance would not be reckless, but measured, as Leonidas had taught, disciplined, unbreakable, divine. They would become the storm that Persia could not predict, the retribution that time itself would remember. As the sun rose, 10,000 shields gleamed with the crimson lambda of Sparta. Beneath the morning light, a nation reborn stood ready. The tears that once fell for Thermopylae now hardened into iron resolve. The Spartans would fight not only for Greece, but for every brother who had fallen at the hot gates. Greece was fractured, her cities wary of one another's ambition. Yet the memory of Thermopylae united them like no treaty could. Envoys traveled from Sparta to Athens, Corinth, and Thebes, bearing the story of the 300 sacrifice. Join us, they urged, or face Persia's chains. And one by one the city-states rose from doubt to courage. Athens provided ships and silver. Corinth sent cavalry. Megara pledged men. Even the distant cities of Thessaly and Achaia sent warriors, moved by the tales of Leonidas' stand. The flame of unity burned where before there had been only rivalry. The gods themselves seemed to watch with interest as the sons of Greece prepared for reckoning. In the shadow of Mount Taygetus, the Spartan commanders held council. They would march north, crush Persian garrisons, and drive the invaders into the sea. The vengeance of Sparta would begin not with talk, but with thunder, and the Persians would soon learn that no empire, however vast, could silence the fury of the free. When the horns of Sparta sounded, every valley in Laconia echoed with the rhythm of war. 10,000 men in bronze marched in perfect formation, their sandals grinding the dust of the Peloponnesus into memory. Mothers and children watched from the hills, proud and silent. The land seemed to tremble beneath their disciplined tread. The column stretched for miles, shields flashing like a river of blood and bronze. Each warrior carried more than weapons. They bore the ghosts of Thermopylae on their backs. The march was not only toward the enemy, but toward destiny itself. As they passed through allied lands, peasants knelt and offered bread, whispering blessings for vengeance fulfilled. Night after night, fires dotted the horizon like constellations of wrath. Songs of Leonidas filled the darkness, reminding them why they marched. The younger soldiers, though untested, found courage in the stories of those who had fallen. They were not simply an army, they were a legend reborn. As the Spartans advanced north, Persian scouts observed them from mountain watchtowers. Their commanders laughed, mocking the small Greek army that dared approach. But laughter turned to unease when they saw the discipline, the silence, the terrifying unity of the advancing phalanx. This was no mob, this was vengeance incarnate. Xerxes' satraps sent messengers galloping east to warn of the Spartan advance. The Persian commanders underestimated the resolve of the Greeks, believing them broken after Thermopylae. But they were about to learn that wounds only harden those who refuse to yield. The Spartans had not forgotten, they had been waiting. The first watchtower fell before dawn. Spartan scouts crept through the dark, slit throats, and tore down banners. By sunrise, the Persians found their signals extinguished, their arrogance answered. The wind carried only one message: Leonidas has not died in vain. The Spartans met the Persians on the plains near Plataea, where Xerxes' remnants had fortified themselves. The Persian commanders, confident in numbers, sneered at the handful of Greeks before them. But they had not faced Spartans thirsting for vengeance. They had only faced soldiers. When the horns blew, the Spartan phalanx advanced like a single living creature. Shields locked, spears lowered, their chant thundered across the field. The Persians unleashed arrows, but the bronze held firm. Then came the crash, bronze against wicker, discipline against numbers. The ground quaked beneath the fury of 10,000. By midday, the Persian lines shattered. The Greeks pressed forward relentlessly, cutting through their foes with divine precision. At the battle's peak, the Spartan commander raised his spear and shouted, "For Leonidas." The cry echoed across the battlefield as Persia's might was crushed underfoot. Plataea became the grave of Xerxes' ambition. When the battle ended, the plains ran red. The Spartans gathered the bodies of their fallen and stood in silence as the smoke of Persia's defeat drifted skyward. The vengeance of Thermopylae had been fulfilled, not through cruelty, but through justice. Each Persian slain was an answer to the betrayal of the hot gates. The Spartans built a mound for their dead and offered sacrifices to Ares. The priests declared the oath of vengeance complete, but within each Spartan heart burned the memory of their king. Leonidas had been avenged, yet his spirit remained a guiding flame for what Greece could be when united. News of Plataea spread across the Aegean. Cities rejoiced, temples rang with hymns, and the Persians withdrew beyond the Hellespont. Greece was free once more, its honor restored by the steel of 10,000 Spartans. Yet vengeance, though satisfying, left behind a haunting silence, the price of freedom paid in blood. When the Spartan army returned home, they did so not as conquerors, but as guardians of legacy. Their armor was dented, their faces scarred, yet their eyes burned with pride. The people of Sparta lined the streets, throwing olive branches and garlands at their feet. The names of the fallen were spoken with reverence. At the temple of Apollo, the ephors welcomed the survivors. The offerings were laid before the gods, Persian gold, captured banners, and broken spears, symbols of vengeance fulfilled. Yet even amid the triumph, silence lingered. The cost of vengeance had been great, and every warrior carried ghosts within. The mothers who had sent their sons to avenge Leonidas now held their heads high. Sparta had proven once again that no empire could conquer her will. The hot gates were avenged, but the lessons of Thermopylae would echo for centuries. Freedom is forged not in victory, but in the courage to face certain death and fight regardless. Far across the sea, in the palaces of Persia, Xerxes sat upon his golden throne, staring into silence. Reports of the defeat at Plataea had reached him. The god-king who once believed himself invincible now trembled at the thought of men who fought not for conquest, but for honor. His empire stretched across continents, yet he had never faced such defiance. The courtiers whispered that the Spartans were not men, but spirits of vengeance sent by the gods. Xerxes, once proud and unyielding, began to fear the shadows of his own halls. The arrogance that had led him to Thermopylae now consumed him from within. His empire would never recover from the wound inflicted by 10,000 Greeks. The vengeance of Sparta had done more than kill armies. It had killed the illusion of Persian invincibility. From that day on, even the mightiest kings would remember that bronze and discipline could humble empires built on pride. Among the 10,000 who marched, many were brothers or sons of those who had fallen at Thermopylae. They carried more than weapons. They carried memories. Around the campfires they spoke of Leonidas' last stand, of the shield wall that refused to break, of men who laughed in the face of death. These stories were passed down like sacred scripture, binding generations in unbreakable loyalty. The vengeance they achieved was not merely for their fathers, but for the spirit of Sparta itself. They had proven that courage could outlive flesh, and that the legacy of sacrifice never dies. Years later, their sons would stand where Leonidas fell, not in mourning, but in reverence. The mountains of Thermopylae would echo forever with the ghosts of the 300 and the roar of the 10,000 who avenged them. History itself bowed to their memory. The victory at Plataea did more than avenge Thermopylae. It changed Greece. City-states once divided by rivalry found common purpose and freedom. The walls of Athens rose stronger, and the fleets of Corinth guarded the seas. Sparta stood as the unshaken pillar of discipline and valor. For the first time, Greece began to see itself not as many cities, but as one people. The Persian menace had failed to conquer them, and in that failure, Greece found its soul. The legend of Leonidas and his avengers became the cornerstone of unity, a tale told in every gymnasium and temple. From the ashes of war, civilization flourished. The arts, philosophy, and science grew from the soil watered by blood and sacrifice. The vengeance of Sparta had paved the path for Greece's golden age, proof that from suffering, greatness can rise. Centuries later, travelers visiting Sparta would see the shields of Plataea hanging in temples, each dent and scratch telling stories of valor. The inscriptions spoke not of conquest, but of duty. For Thermopylae, they read, carved into bronze. Every young Spartan who gazed upon them understood the price of honor. The shield became more than a weapon. It became a symbol of unity and memory. Spartan boys were taught that to lose it was to lose one's soul. It represented not just personal survival, but the survival of their brothers, the unbreakable wall that had avenged their fallen. In time, even enemies respected the name of Sparta. Their legacy transcended death, their vengeance transformed into legend. And the world learned that no army is more terrifying than those who fight for something greater than themselves. Not all who fought at Plataea returned to songs of glory. Many perished nameless, their bodies unburied on foreign soil. Yet the Spartans never forgot them. Every year, at the festival of Carnea, their names were whispered in the wind, offerings made in silence. Their spirits were said to guard the mountain pass of Thermopylae forever. Veterans who survived lived simple lives, never boasting of their deeds. To them, vengeance had not been victory, it had been duty. They had restored balance to the world, and that was enough. Their scars were their honor, their silence their pride. In their humility, they taught future generations that true strength lies not in killing the enemy, but in standing unbroken when all hope is gone. The Avengers of Thermopylae faded into history, but their courage remained eternal. Bards across Greece sang of the hot gates of the day when 10,000 Spartans avenged the 300. The song spread to islands and kingdoms far beyond Greece, inspiring warriors and poets alike. It was a song not of grief but of triumph, the triumph of free men over tyranny. Children learned to recite the names of Leonidas and his avengers as though they were demigods. The story became more than history. It became faith. When storms raged and battles loomed, men whispered the chant of the Spartans, a rhythm of courage that silenced fear. And so, even when centuries passed and the world changed beyond recognition, the legend of Thermopylae and its avengers endured. For as long as men value freedom, they will remember those who died for it and those who avenged them. In the twilight of his life, the last surviving commander of the Spartan 10,000 stood at the gates of Thermopylae once more. The mountains were quiet, the pass serene. He placed his spear in the soil and whispered to the wind, "We have kept our promise." The ghosts of Leonidas and his men seemed to stir in the dusk. The commander closed his eyes, hearing the echoes of shields, the cries of war, and the chant of vengeance fulfilled. The land that once burned with blood now glowed under a peaceful sun. The gods had witnessed their oath and found it worthy. As the old warrior's breath faded, a final flame flickered in the distance, the eternal spirit of Sparta. Though empires would rise and fall, though ages would turn, that flame would never die. For Thermopylae was more than a battle. It was the immortal soul of courage itself. Thermopylae was not the end. It was the beginning of a legend that shaped the destiny of nations. 10,000 Spartans avenged their fallen, but their true victory was eternal. The triumph of the human spirit over tyranny, the unyielding will to stand when all seems lost. Even today, the name Sparta echoes across time, a reminder that courage can outlive kingdoms, and honor can outshine death. For as long as men fight for freedom, Leonidas and his 10,000 avengers will never fade. Their story lives, carved not in stone, but in the heart of every soul that refuses to bow.